What's up? It's your boy Kay, and I'm here with Isaac. Say what up to the people, Isaac.
What up to the people?
This is our first video of the Kay and Isaac podcast, Sports and Goal,
Yes.
alright? Where we are going to talk about sports that we are either informed or uninformed on.
Mostly uninformed.
But just because we love sports and we want
do.
to talk about it, we
Yes.
need an outlet for the hates of the week, for the
Yes.
happy energies of the week.
Yes.
So, thank you guys for coming to our first episode. And for that, we are going to start off this episode with the cheers of the beer. We are going to do this every episode, celebrating our first segment in this video, fan questions, which
Yes.
obviously this is the first video. There are no fan questions yet. But we have a couple of questions for each other. So, here you go. Cheers to you. Go ahead and explain what beer we're drinking today.
Yes, this is Three Floyd's Zombie Dust. It's called an Undead Pale Ale. And it's out of Munster, Indiana. So it's a local beer. Good taste. We've seen it. Actually, it's served in bars and other places around.
Yeah.
But we got it at a liquor store. It's very good.
Yeah, it's a good beer. I like it. As Isaac would describe it, it's hoppy. No, but it is a good beer. Good beer.
Good deer. I love beers.
Zombie Dust Undead Pale Ale. All right. So let's get into the questions that we've prepared for each other.
Okay, my first question. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of these teams when we get to the NCAA football section. So stay tuned to that. Here's my question. And this is what I struggle with, and I want to know what your thoughts are. So when you have ranked teams in college football, okay. Top 25. When you have teams that are in there that have not beat any ranked teams, and yet they are ranked, how do you feel about that? So, for example, we've got two teams we're going to talk about later, IU football and Army. Both teams, good teams, both teams undefeated, both teams have, though, not played any ranked teams to get to where they are. And, like, IU, for example, is ranked 5th right now.
Yeah.
So, I struggle with that. I don't know how I necessarily feel, so I wanted to see what your thoughts were.
Well, I think a couple of things that should be taken into consideration when you're giving a team a ranking is how dominantly they are winning. So, for example, with IU, they've been pretty dominant in most of their games. They had a little bit of a tougher game against Michigan, but Michigan didn't just last year they won the championship, right?
Yeah, just last year.
So, they should be a team that should have a ranking next to them, and IU just handled them. Army, on the other hand, I haven't really paid too close attention to their season, but they've been doing fantastic too. I'm seeing the highlights of their quarterback all over ESPN.
Fun to watch, yeah.
So I definitely think how dominant they're playing, but also the conference that they're in. IU being in the Big Ten, that should theoretically be a tough conference. They get better recruits because of the conference that they're in.
Right.
So I know they haven't really faced too tough of teams besides like Michigan this year. Eventually, though, they're going to have Ohio State coming around the bend. And same for Army. They're going to have Notre Dame coming around the bend. And so how they do against these teams, since their strength of schedule hasn't been all that, I think if IU loses to Ohio State, especially if they lose miserably, if it's like a blowout, their ranking should go from like 5 to almost like 20s, in my opinion. They should have a significant drop. It shouldn't be like Georgia when they lose to a top-rated team. They just go back a few spots. And same for Army. If they end up losing to Notre Dame and it's a horrible loss, they should have a huge jump back.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I just think it's just a challenge because it is a quality of schedule thing for me. I think that's the thing they kind of look at, and I'm not taking away from both teams because they're both actually really fun to watch, and I'm excited to see what they do against the ranked teams. When IU plays Ohio State, when Army plays Notre Dame, what are they going to do? And you hope it's not a blowout because then it feels like that doesn't really justify the rest of the season.
Like we've been lied to.
Yeah, so you hope that's not the case, but yeah, it'd be interesting. See how it goes.
Yep. All right, my question for you. Pacers last year in the in-season tournament.
My Pacers, yes.
Had a pretty deep run. They went all the way to the championship, took on the Lakers, ended up losing. But that was when I think last year we took a look at the Pacers. We're like, wow, this team's actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. This year, they've had a little bit of a slower start. The in-season tournaments, just now coming upon us. Do you think this Pacers team is going to be as good as the Pacers team from last year?
No. I wish I could say yes, but I don't think they did enough to make a run again. I mean, they might make a run. They'll probably make the playoffs. But in the in-season tournament itself, I think last year we actually got to see what the team looked like. Because they did kind of start, and it's almost similar to this year. They started off kind of rough. I think they're 5-5 right now.
Yeah.
They played tonight in the first in-season tournament game. But I just don't think they did enough. I mean, let me say this. In-season tournament last year, I was a little skeptical about, is this a good idea? It seemed kind of weird to just throw it in, and then it's not like these games don't really count to their final record. So then I actually loved it. I was like, well, this is pretty cool because they're competing. Like, they want to win this tournament.
Get that bonus money.
Yeah, bonus money and the prestige, I guess, of winning the first time through. And it's terrible that it was the stupid Lakers that won. Nobody likes them. Nobody.
There's a lot of people that do.
Maybe people that live in L.A., but not here. But just seeing the Pacers there, I think, was pretty cool. But I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I just don't think they did enough. They brought back some people and gave them pretty good contracts. And again, they're not playing bad right now. We saw them play against the Celtics. Actually, we went to the game, and they had a pretty solid game. But I don't know. I just don't see a masterful run by them this year. I hope I'm wrong.
Okay. I mean, I think that they have the potential. They're a young team.
Yeah.
And
fast paced.
Like I told you at the beginning of the season, I watched the first couple of games of the Pacers, and I told you, like, Ben Mathurin reminds me a lot of Anthony Edwards. If he just had more shots, if he had a little bit more of a go-get-it type of attitude and I want to take this big shot type of attitude, I think he could be right there on par with him.
Well, you could see his confidence building already because, he had 30-plus points just the other night.
He's getting up there for sure.
He's starting to take more shots. He's very aggressive in the paint when he drives. So, yeah, I see that.
Yeah, and then also early this season, we've had a lot of injuries, especially at the big man spot.
Yeah.
We traded away Jalen Smith. Traded away Smith, and then right after that, Isaiah Jackson gets hurt. We brought in Wiseman. Wiseman gets hurt.
Yeah, Turner got hurt for a while.
Yeah, Turner was hurt. He's kind of spotty here and there. So, I mean, we're struggling through a little bit of injury problems early on, but we'll see how the Pacers do going up.
I'm excited to see what they do tonight.
Okay, so that's our questions segment. Now we're going to get into the first topic, NFL, okay? Obviously,
probably start every week. Go ahead.
We're going to have to talk about those Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers are 7-2 right now.
They are.
All right? We just beat the Commanders, who were looking like the team to beat. Besides, like, the Chiefs. Yeah. They were a fantastic team. They were leading in the NFC East until we knocked them down and went ahead and gave that spot back to the Eagles. Pittsburgh Steelers with Russell Wilson scoring 3 touchdowns, right? Passing for 3 touchdowns. George Pickens, 5 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown. I think that this Pittsburgh Steelers team is the best team we've seen since Big Ben retired.
Bold statement, but I agree.
We've picked up a lot of free agents that have attributed, very nicely early on. Patrick Queen on defense, Jackson at the corner spot on defense, and then obviously our 2 quarterbacks that are leading the charge.
Yeah.
And I got to say, like, whenever they started Justin Fields at the beginning of the season and we were kind of winning games, I was like, okay, this is better than last year. This is better than the last couple of years. Yeah. This might be our ceiling, but if this is our ceiling, maybe we can get, sneak into the playoffs.
Wasn't bad, yeah.
Russell Wilson comes in, and I'm like, they could take a step back and then have to go back to Justin Fields later, or Russell Wilson could be kind of the same as Justin Fields, not really impacting it too much. He's coming in and looking like the Super Bowl quarterback that we wanted him to be.
Yep.
Now, I think in however many weeks are left in the NFL season, we are going to be looking back on a new podcast episode talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
What do you think about Steelers?
So let me start with this first. Commanders, we got to give it to them because they finally have a team they can be excited about. I mean, it's been forever. It felt like that they've, even back to the Redskins, they just weren't. I mean, they were not a relevant team for a very long time, and so I'm really excited to see them develop. They're a very young team. I mean, it's a rookie quarterback, and so he's done exceptionally well. So, and they barely lost. I mean, they really...
It was a close game.
Very close game,
for
28-27.
Sure.
So, I give it to them. Steelers, on the other hand, you mentioned a lot of great points. When they had the whole mess of the quarterback situation over the summer, you had no idea really what they were going to do. They knew they had to make a change. They knew they had to do something different. And then you see them pull in Justin Fields, and you see them get Russell Wilson, and you're like, what is happening? One, they got ridiculous deals for both of those guys. I mean, cheap. They've saved so much money.
Yep.
And they have two technically starting quarterbacks that are now playing together. And I felt the same way. Watching Justin Fields, I'm like, this isn't a bad team. Now, he wasn't playing bad. He wasn't great, but he wasn't playing bad. And you thought the same thing of if Wilson comes in, is he going to gel with the offense? Or is it going to take him 2 to 3 games? Which I think we would have understood.
Yeah.
But still, you don't want that, especially when it's in the middle of the season. You want him getting off on a very quick start. And what we've seen so far...
He has.
Yeah. He's not... we saw him at the Broncos. You could tell something wasn't clicking there. I mean, and it just wasn't. It wasn't a good environment, I don't think, for anybody.
Sean Payton walked in the locker room, and it's almost like he looked at Russell Wilson and was like, no, I don't want him. I don't want him. He's taking up all our cap room. Get out of here.
Yep. And he kind of had a big head. I remember he had some things that he requested. He wanted his own office and all this weird stuff. I mean, so maybe he felt like he had to get his ego down a little bit, but I don't know. I'm with you. I wouldn't be surprised if I see him in the championship. I really don't.
Steelers all the way, baby.
Yep. And they're going to have to go through some challenging teams to get there, but I think it can be done.
All right, so next topic. Eagles absolutely bend over and spank the Cowboys 34-6 last week. Now, I just want to ask, everything I see online is talking about how trash the Eagles were this year, talking about how their coach, Soriani, I think his name is, how he needs to go, how the chemistry in the locker room just isn't the same anymore, how they're paying all these people so much money and they were stupid of them. They're 7-2 right now. They're on a 5-game winning streak.
Yeah.
I mean, is this a solid team or is it not a solid team?
It's a great question. Well, first, let me just say this. I'm so tired of talking about the Cowboys. It's unbelievable. I mean, every off-season, we hear about the Dallas Cowboys, and then they come into the season for year after year after year and just collapse. Now, it's either they collapse during the season or they collapse during the playoffs, and I can't pinpoint exactly what it is. I think it's a coaching problem, and I thought they would have moved on from their head coach last year, but for whatever reason, Jones kept him around. But let's not spend too much time on the Cowboys because it's a disaster every year. I think they're 3-6 right now.
Yeah, 3-6.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Dak Prescott's hurt. I mean, Mike McCarthy, as you mentioned, he's kind of fresh there. He's kind of, dealing with the cards he's been given. CeeDee Lamb's been there for a while. Dak's been there for a while. Micah Parsons, I like to think of him as he's young because it feels like he just got drafted yesterday. But he's not. He's been there for, some years now.
Yeah, I don't think it's a talent issue. I think they've got the talent to make it.
Son.
That's what I think. But
it's the Cowboys. They're choke artists.
Yes. But as far as the Eagles go, to be honest with you, I don't know. I think it's still going to take some time to really look and see. I mean, I can't look at their schedule and say they beat a bunch of really good teams. But, I mean, they play the Commanders over Thursday Night Football literally tomorrow. So what's that going to show? You've got a young team against kind of a developed team. I think that will be a telling game for them, to be honest.
I think they're going to get blown out.
Maybe.
All right, let's move on to the next game, our last game in the NFL topic.
Yeah.
Okay? Chiefs-Broncos. Now, the Chiefs, I mean, they're undefeated, right? They should be, being the Chiefs. They should be being the Chiefs in all these games. What do you expect? I expect Mahomes throwing for 4 touchdowns a game and, And, Travis Kelce dancing in the end zone and getting on a knee to propose to Taylor Swift, right?
Disgusting.
Is that the Chiefs we're seeing this year?
No. And to be honest with you, I think I've heard somebody say this about another team, but I think they're just playing with fire. It's just a matter of time they're going to lose. I mean, they did not play well against the Broncos at all.
No.
I mean, Mahomes had one touchdown. I think he threw for like 200 and some yards, but they got lucky on a special teams end of the game situation. I mean, I don't even know what the Broncos were thinking when they lined up the way that they did. I mean, you see that lineman, he was like on his heels and he just got pushed over.
Like squatted over like he's pooping in the woods, man.
I don't, somebody either didn't, I mean,
It's Sean Payton. Hey, don't criticize Sean Payton.
I don't want to say that the game was rigged, but maybe this one was, because they have a good kicker. If he would have had a chance just to get that ball up, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. Chiefs would be 8-1 instead of 9-0.
Well, that's the topic of the season when it comes to the Chiefs is some referees, man.
Yeah,
them referees helping them out.
Some questionable stuff. I'm not gonna lie. There was some questionable stuff throughout that season.
So these Chiefs aren't the Chiefs, huh? Aren't the Chiefs that we've seen in the past 5 years, I guess now?
They can get beat. And we talked about Steelers before. I think the Steelers could be that team that beats them.
Yeah.
Whether it's in the AFC Championship or not, I don't know. But if they meet earlier, I don't think they're going to get past them. I really don't.
Yeah, well, if you look at all the Chiefs games, they've all been close games coming down the line. And as we've seen this year, that's Steelers' specialty. All these close games at the end, we do the plays that are necessary in order to win the games.
Comeback kings.
Yeah. So we're going to get into our second segment, right? Our first segment was the questions. Our second segment, we like to call Show 'em the money, show 'em the door. Okay? So, I'm going to start it off with Show 'em the money. I might be a little biased here.
Just a little bit.
Show Russell Wilson the money. Show him the money, all right? He deserves to get an extended contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just after those first 3 games, you can tell they're just vibing. Everyone, and I heard the rumors, like he takes out the offense, everybody on the offense to dinner on like every Thursday just to build up team chemistry.
It's expensive dinner.
He can afford it. He's on like a $34 million cap with the Broncos or something like that.
Yeah.
But he has done everything. He could have been a player that just ate that $34 million, kind of had a I don't care type of season, and then find his new home next year on a brand new veteran probably type of contract because he's earned it. He's a Super Bowl winner. But no, he stepped into the Steelers team, and he's almost acting like he has something to prove.
He does.
Like he's kind of angry at the last couple of years of what happened over in Denver.
Yep.
So he's definitely a player that I believe you need to show him the money.
Yep.
Cheers to you, Mr. Wilson.
Now I've got the section of show them the door, and I'm going to pick the entire Indianapolis Colts team.
The home team, the entire team.
I'm a Steelers fan. I grew up a Steelers fan. I love the Steelers.
We don't claim him.
But growing up, a lot of my time in Indiana, I became a Colts fan. Obviously, with Peyton Manning coming in, he was just my favorite player to ever watch play the game. But I can't. It's just frustrating to watch. Again, you have a talented team. There's some gaps. There's definitely some gaps.
Yeah.
But you have a talented team that is just being it's just messed with, and it just keeps moving. The same thing happened last year when you had the whole coach situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just they announced today that Richardson's going to be the starting quarterback for the game.
Bring him back.
It makes zero sense because they literally said we're going to stick with Flacco. We're going to run it for the rest of the season. And now that Flacco literally had one terrible game, and then probably one other one that was just not great. They did play 2 good teams. Played the Vikings, played the Bills.
Those are 2 good
but
teams.
when your first pass in the Bills game, your first pass, the first play on offense, is an interception, pick 6, that's gonna disrupt your rest of your game, and it did. I think you got picked off 3 times that game. So I don't know. I'm frustrated. I think the defense has actually stepped up and started to do better when they were the problem at the beginning of the season. But, I mean, this season's a wash. It just is. I think it's the right decision to put Richardson back in, to give him some practice time, to give him some experience, because he's so young. I think he's played 8 or 9 games for the Colts so far. He played like 10 when he was in college.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just
he
young.
Needs to develop.
He needs to develop. He needs time. And this is the perfect time to do it. So, unfortunately, they're not going to be making a run of the playoffs unless some miracle happens. But, yeah, I think we got to move on.
Did you see Kenny Moore's comments on the team? Oh, man. I forget what he exactly said, but it was something along the lines of, we just don't work hard. We're not working hard in the locker room right now. People just don't care.
So it's a coaching problem.
It could be a culture problem overall.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, definitely something brewing.
But when you adjust stuff mid-season like that, it's got to mess with the locker room.
That's the captain of the team, man. You're swapping them out.
Yeah. So that's their fault then on that end, honestly.
Yeah. All right, so getting into our next topic, all right? We already covered NFL. Now we're getting into NBA.
Yes.
Okay? First thing I want to talk about, the best team in the NBA currently, still undefeated, 12 games in.
Only
undefeated team. The Cavaliers. Now, I just want to start off by obviously talking about the star of that team, Donovan Mitchell, right? Yes. He's averaging 24 points a game, which isn't like something that's, crazy, right? But let's talk about that trade that got him there. And let's kind of revisit this. It's been a few years now, all right? So the Cavaliers sent Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, Ochai Agbaji, and 2 first-round picks to the Jazz in exchange for only Mitchell.
Yeah.
So kind of a big blockbuster trade.
That's a lot.
We're a couple of years down the line now. Cavs, as we just mentioned, 12-0. Jazz are 2-8. So obviously the players that they traded in that trade deal aren't really impacting things. Okay, we don't really know how the draft picks that they got are going to pan out. But, I mean, what do we say to 12-0 with the Cleveland Cavaliers? I don't think anyone thought after LeBron James left that this would be happening in that dirty city of Cleveland. What do you think?
Well, they had a pretty solid season last year. I think they played really well. We got to see kind of a younger team develop. Mm-hmm. And so you thought that they would trek that way. Now, if they continue the direction they're going now, it'll be interesting to see at the end of the season where they're at. Can they pull it off as a young team in the playoffs? Can they play well? Can they win a series? But yeah, I mean, it's not like they played chump teams so far. I mean, I looked at they beat the Lakers. They beat the Bucks twice in a row. So I don't know why they would schedule it that way. That's kind of weird. But they beat them at home, and then beat them away, then beat them at home. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see. One, I was with you. You know, they really haven't had anything going for him since LeBron was there, and we'll not mention his name anymore because I can't stand him. But it's good for them to see a team develop and maybe make a good run.
Hey, cool for the city of Cleveland on moving on past King James himself.
Yes.
You know, the legacy setter over there in Cleveland, the person that brought them their first championship.
Yeah.
You know, he definitely left big shoes to fill.
Yeah. Shouldn't have won that championship, but they did.
And I think Donovan Mitchell is stepping in right now, and he's trying to claim the city of Cleveland for himself.
Well, he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
I think he needs to keep going. It's going well.
So the next conversation in this NBA topic, right? The Celtics. Last night, the Celtics lost to a 5-7 Hawks. Okay? In the first, I believe it was the first round of the Summer League playoffs.
Yep,
right?
It was, yep.
The other teams that the Celtics have lost to are the Pacers and the Warriors. Now, this is a Celtics team that is obviously still 100% more stacked than every other team in the NBA.
I agree.
And for them to be losing to a Pacers team, which we were at that game when they lost, and we had injury problems already. What's his name? Wiseman, James Wiseman was already hurt. And so was Isaiah Jackson, right? So at the big position, we did not have bigs.
Turner didn't play. Jackson.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it was
sorry.
before Jackson got hurt, but Turner was hurt at the time. And I believe Porzingis was hurt for them as well.
He was, yeah.
All right. So there was injuries on both sides. But with that being said, if you're just lining up the guards and the forwards against the Pacers guards and the forwards, how do you lose?
Right.
I mean, and you're a championship team. I just don't understand. Now, I just want to ask you, who leads that team right now?
Well,
I mean,
it should be Tatum.
And he leads them in all the categories.
Yeah. But as far as it's a great question because I don't know, and it's not to say that they're terrible. They're 9-3. I mean,
they're second in the East.
They're still playing good basketball. But I'm with you. When we watched the game live, we saw the first 3 quarters where they were a miserable basketball team. They did not play well. They did not shoot well. They were shot. I think they shot 36% for the first 3 quarters. And you just can't do that and win basketball games. Now, they made a massive run in the fourth quarter and almost beat us, and we beat them in overtime.
Pacers were kind of giving it to them.
Yeah, and we were playing soft on them and that kind of stuff, but Tatum started to kick in. I think, it's going to be a long season. We know there's a lot of games left, but I don't, at this point, looking at that team, could you say they're going to win a back-to-back championship? I certainly don't think so.
It's just, it kind of just feels funny. I feel like, on paper, they should be dominating. Even the teams that they are beating, I don't feel like they're beating them super convincingly. And, for people to be still questioning, like, who is the leader of that team? Who's the person down the stretch in the last 2 minutes you want to put the ball in their hands so they can take over, so they can put up the points to win the game? Like, Brown is right there. Do you want to give it to Brown or do you want to give it to Tatum?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, last year I think they did good because it was the first kind of time that they were experimenting with that 5-man squad.
Yeah.
It's just, Drew Holiday, one of the best defending guards. Derek White is one of the better defending guards as well.
Great
but
shooter.
they both can also put up points for sure.
Yeah.
Then you have Brown, obviously, and Tatum, who could arguably be, besides, you have like LeBron and KD, but they could be up there as 2 of the best wings in NBA.
Yeah.
And then you should have Porzingis, which he's been struggling with injury problems. But even when you don't have him, you have Al Horford. Al Horford's a dog. He's a perimeter shooter as well.
Somehow still playing basketball.
It's like if you were to play 2K with your friends and they pick the Celtics squad, they're cheating.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it should feel.
Yeah.
And it just,
stacked.
whenever you watch a Celtics game, it just doesn't feel like that.
No, it really
I
doesn't.
don't understand.
Nope, and I feel the same way. And I think they probably feel the same way. I mean, you see the struggles in their face when they lose and when they talk about it. So they know something's not clicking right now. But maybe it will as the season develops. But right now it's just, something feels like it's missing. I'm not sure what that is. And I don't want to say it, but usually when teams start going down this track, you see a pretty major change and you see a trade somewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that would be. I don't necessarily think that they need anything. But there might be some conflict within that locker room that's bringing that team morale down. I don't know.
Could be. I mean, I don't know. I think any locker room with Al Horford and Drew Holiday is probably a cheery locker room. They're both veterans. They're both super chill. But we'll see. We'll see what the Celtics do this season. Obviously, super high expectations, so it's easy to talk like this. But we'll see. So that brings me to my next point, though. All right, we just talked about both the Cavs and the Celtics. Those are the only 2 teams in the East right now that are over 500. While in the West, there are 10 teams that are over 500. Do you think the NBA, the league itself, is lopsided in talent? I mean, let me hear. What do you got?
Let me say they've talked about restructuring both conferences multiple times. Now, I don't think that's a good idea because you get into a tradition of the specific conferences that I think you should keep them. But I know they've had that conversation, but I don't think it is. I think there might be a question of, the teams that they're facing. It could be that, but I don't know. Regardless of it is lopsided or not, what you're going to find is once the playoffs hit, Eastern's playing Eastern and Western's playing Western, and then you meet in the middle. So, I think it is you've got, let's see, 3 teams that are at 500. So the Magic, Pacers, and Knicks are at 500. And you've got some teams that are closer there. Now, you do have teams that are struggling and not doing well. I mean, Raptors, 76ers, surprisingly not doing well. A lot of injury problems, I think, was part of their issue. But, yeah, you've got some solid runs. But you've got, like, a Lakers at 6-4. You know, they're an average, okay team. Timberwolves should probably be playing better than they are. They're 6-5. Clippers are 6-5. They should probably be playing better than they are. But, I mean, Thunder, Suns, and Warriors and Nuggets, I would say, have been running that conference for a long time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's necessarily lopsided.
I just foresee kind of the same thing that we saw last year. Now, last year was more so due to injury, but it almost felt like the Celtics, who were the dominant team, they should be winning.
Yeah.
It's like their pathway to the finals through the East was just paved for them. Like, teams just set aside and let the Celtics go in the playoffs. Yeah. They didn't really have to fight for it. But when you watch those Western teams in the playoffs last year, they were duking it out. I mean, that Nuggets-Timberwolves series was crazy.
It's a great series.
And I mean, I feel like it's kind of going to be the same thing this time. Now, the question at the end of the day will be, does going through series like that in the West, facing these super tough teams who are obviously, like I said, they're all over 500, like the Warriors, the Nuggets, you know, the Timberwolves will be up there. I know they will. When you're going through these type of teams through the playoffs and through these series, does it wear you down to the point where when you get to the finals and then you have a team like the Celtics that didn't do much to get to the finals, or does that give them the advantage? Right. Or if you're facing these tough teams over in the West, is that getting you more battle tested, giving you, like, since you're already up to that pace of beating this super tough team, are you ready to face on an even tougher team in the next round?
It's a great question. To be honest with you, I don't know. Because you saw it last year where, you saw, like, the Pacers made a run. They played the Celtics to go to the championship. Pacers should have won at least 2 of those games. They kind of screwed it up at the end and, you know,
Halliburton got hurt.
Yeah, so that didn't help. And then they just manhandled the West when they went to the championship. Now, I don't know. It's a tough question because I do think when you do play tougher teams, it wears your body down. If you're playing a 7-game series, I mean, and you're going 3-3 and playing a 7th game, it makes you tired. And you don't really have a huge gap in between the next series when it starts. It might be a couple days.
Yeah.
So it definitely, I would say, wears down the team. And I wouldn't say that's the reason why the Celtics won last year, but I wouldn't be surprised if that helped.
All right. Well, that's our NBA topic, okay? We're going to get into our next segment, our third and final segment, okay? High School Spotlight. So we are located here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we want to spotlight something at the high school level that is happening in our state. You want to take it over?
Sure. Yeah. So high school football is in session right now. They're getting ready to go into the state championship, so everybody's battling in the regionals, sectionals are all done. So we saw that Brownsburg beat Ben Davis, which that's a tough game. Ben Davis has always been a strong team, and they've always had a great program. So they beat him 38-35. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Ben Davis was up 35-7 at one point in that game, and then Brownsburg made a huge comeback.
At halftime, I believe.
Wow. So that's a
big comeback.
Huge comeback. Good for Brownsburg. They are actually going to play Lawrence North to go to the state championship, and then you got Crown Point and Carroll going against each other to go to the state championship, and then obviously that's down at Lucas Oil. So congratulations to those teams. That's pretty awesome.
Yep. Kudos to you, Brownsburg. Ben Davis is always a tough team to beat. I mean, they are the team of the West Side, and so for you to take over that West Side title for this year, congratulations.
Yep.
All right. Getting into our third topic here. NCAA football.
Yes.
Now, football is heating up. We kind of already hinted at it earlier with your fan question. Yep. Okay. Let's get into the Hoosiers.
Yep. Indiana Hoosiers football has been very exciting to watch. I've watched several games just to see how well they play. They are a really good team, and they are coached exceptionally well. So they're 10-0 for the first time in the history of their football program, which is, again, that's awesome for them. We did have the question of, who's their notable wins? Were they playing any other ranked teams? And they have not to this point. So they did beat Michigan. They did beat Washington, who was in the championship last year. Different team than they were last year, but they were in the championship. Yep, and beat Michigan State. But they do have a massive game coming up in Columbus, Ohio, against Ohio State in 2 weeks. So they have a bye. Now I did look. Ohio State has a bye as well. So they're both off the same week. So they both get extra time to prepare for each other as they meet in Columbus. So I don't know. I'm optimistic and also fearful at the same time. I kind of feel like that if IU doesn't start off really well, they could get trampled pretty quickly. Yeah. But they need to get some pressure on Ohio State, almost immediately, to have a really good shot at that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time to be a Hoosier.
That's cool,
right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even claim myself as a Hoosier until this year.
Yeah.
Until now, they're 10-0, so, I can get behind it. It's cool. Yeah. I love to root for the underdog, and that's what they've been this season. Yeah. And now they're to the point where they're not even an underdog anymore. But one thing I just want to talk about, like you kind of hinted at earlier, is the coach for the Indiana Hoosiers. Like he said early in the season, check the stats. I don't lose. And he came in and proved that.
He did.
10-0 is something that the Hoosiers has never seen, right?
Never. Yeah,
never seen 10-0.
Yep.
And they're going into a tough game coming up against Ohio State. And, I think there's a lot of games that they played this year where you're going into it thinking, is this the game that IU is going to lose? And they end up showing who they really are. Yeah. This is a game, I think, even more so. Like 2 times as many people are going in expecting them to lose.
Yes.
This is the opportunity for the Hoosiers to show who they are.
Yeah.
Like we hinted at earlier, the strength of schedule hasn't, been top tier to where people are fully convinced that they should be at the ranking they're at.
Yeah.
Beating Ohio State proves that there's a new era happening over there at IU Bloomington.
Yep.
Right? This could be the start of something special in Bloomington. And I'm rooting for him. Yeah. That's all I can really say. I'm rooting for him.
I really hope it's a good game. Let me just say it that way. I really hope it's a good game. It comes down to the wire. But let's just say, for example, that IU happens to pull this off, which, again, nobody's going to give them that. I don't.
No one expects it.
When it gets to college game day, they're all going to be picking Ohio State. I think there might be, McAfee might pick Indiana. I don't know. But if they happen to pull it off, the only game they have left is against Purdue, which they always play at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And Purdue's been a horrible football team. Yeah, no. Now, they always step up at the end of the season against IU. I don't know why, but if they can pull that off, that means they'll go to the Big Ten Championship, and most likely they're going to play Oregon, who's the number 1 team in the country right now.
And that's a test.
That's going to be even a bigger test. So, very interesting, but I'm super excited to see where they're at. And I can't wait for next week to see how they do against Ohio State.
Now, let me ask you this, right? Just the last thing I want to talk about with IU. If they can pull off, they're still in the regular season. I think it's pretty obvious they're going to beat Purdue. I don't want to mark anything up, but Purdue hasn't been very good this year.
No.
If they can beat Ohio State, right, or even if they don't beat Ohio State and they somehow still make it into the Big Ten Championship and they play against Oregon, if they can beat Oregon, right, if they can beat one of those teams, I think that they're going to earn a spot in the college football playoff.
Well, the Big Ten champion, they have a spot in the playoff.
Yeah, the champion.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, like, if they ended up beating Ohio State somehow, made it to the championship and then lose to Oregon, right, I think they'll still make it to the playoff.
Yeah.
Okay? If they can just get one of those teams, in my opinion.
I agree.
If they make it to the playoff, though, where is the top tier of the Big Ten championship, or the Big Ten tournament, I guess, that's leading up into this Big Ten championship? And they're obviously at the top of it.
Yeah.
How does that compare up to these, like, SEC teams and like the Georgias, the Alabamas, which I mean, Alabama hasn't been too hot this year, but there's a lot of other top teams that are going to be coming into this tournament. Do you think that the top tier of the Big Ten, which could be IU, could be, or Oregon? I mean, Oregon's going to be the top probably. They're going to make it in regardless of if they win or lose. But do you think they'll have a chance?
No.
No, oh man, that was convincing too.
No, and I think of I hope I'm wrong because I'd love to see them make a run. But you've got Oregon they're a phenomenal football team.
They're good.
Ohio State is a really good team. You have those two. I think they're going to stay at the top. So, I mean, even if IU happens to squeak in somehow, and maybe the last team that gets into the playoffs. I don't know. I just think once you start getting into some of these teams you mentioned, I mean, even like Tennessee's been playing well.
Mm-hmm.
You've got some of these higher-end teams that they haven't faced that kind of competition, so I don't know how they're going to play up to them.
Yeah.
And we could be surprised. They could be coached really well to where they're prepared for that, but without seeing it, which they need to fix their schedule next year. I mean, they need to do that immediately to where they're playing some solid teams to prepare themselves for, what the playoffs would look like.
Yeah, I don't want to say it, but even being 10-0, it almost feels like we still don't know what this team is really capable of. You're not convinced, huh?
I'm not yet. I think I will be after the Ohio State game. I think I'll know either way. And that's even if they lose, I think we will see what the team is capable of doing. So if they do squeak in, then I'd feel, okay, maybe I'll feel more confident that they'll do well in the playoffs, or I'll be like, nah.
Maybe they get a solid matchup.
Could be. Yeah.
Maybe a Boise State or something.
Yeah.
Squeeze. I doubt it. But
yeah.
Anyways, let's get to the next one here, okay? Army.
Yeah.
All right, we kind of hinted out Army earlier. Army's 9-0 right now. They're ranked 16th. But they have not beat a ranked team, as you mentioned before.
Have not.
They're coming up on Notre Dame. How do you think that game's going to turn out?
I think Notre Dame's going to destroy them. I really do. Now, not to say, I know I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Bias.
So I'm a little biased. But Notre Dame is a really, really well-coached team. Their defense is unbelievable.
Now, remind me, who do they lose to again?
Now, I know they lost to Northern Illinois, okay? And they should not have done that, and I think that was the second game of the season. But they did start off with Texas A&M playing it in Texas A&M.
Yeah, I remember that.
And with one of probably the loudest crowds in all of college football, and they pulled that game off. So they played some really good teams. They played Louisville. I mean, they played some other teams that I think are pretty solid. I don't know. Army, I give it all to them because I think it's awesome to see. Army and Navy and Air Force have always been kind of a joke in football. It's just, they're not there to play football. They're there to serve our country. So that's not really going to be their number one focus. So I love them that they're still going out to compete because I think that's awesome. But to see them at 9-0 is really fun to see. And they're 16th. I mean, they're ranked 16th in the country right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do. But I don't know. I think Notre Dame's got they got the up on them. So
I think so, huh?
I think so.
Now, the first thing that pops in my mind when I think about the success of these armed forces teams, I guess it's really just Navy and Army, which Navy isn't doing obviously as good as Army.
We got Air Force too. Good old Air Force.
Yeah. Anyways, the first thing that pops in mind is that documentary that came out on the Michigan dude who was into sign coding. Did you see that?
I don't think so.
You didn't watch that?
Mm-mm.
It's this dude who came from the Navy Academy who would read the signs of the other team and immediately know what they were running. And so he would tell the coach and the coach would adjust. And
is this why Jim Harbaugh got in trouble and ended up leaving for the Chargers?
Yep, pretty much. Yeah.
I don't think I knew that was the reason.
After all of that stuff happened, Navy took a big leap that year. I wish I had the statistics in front of me of how better they did that season than the season before when that dude came on.
Yeah.
But after that kind of, came out, that dude got in trouble for it when he went to Michigan. But it kind of was just released out that this is just what everyone does. And it kind of was just walked over. Wouldn't it make sense that a team like Army, a team like Navy, would have the best code decipherers in the league? Do you think that might have something to do with Army?
I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one. I'm not gonna say the reason why. Now I agree with you. That would make a lot of sense, like a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because they have to decipher code on probably just about everything against the enemies we face. But yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, you need to go watch the documentary, man.
What's it on?
Netflix.
Netflix?
It's on
Okay.
Netflix, yeah.
I'll check it out. You guys go watch it too. Netflix, you can sponsor our next podcast since we just mentioned you.
But I do want to, obviously I'm like 75% joking. I do want to give credit where it's due. The quarterback for Army has been doing a phenomenal job this year running the ball a lot. You don't typically see quarterbacks' entire highlight reel of him running through arm tackles for touchdowns. But Army, kudos to you. You're doing good. I want to keep seeing you succeed. Maybe they make it to a tournament run, man. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who
And
knows?
it's the same thing we said with IU. Work a little. If you feel like you have a solid team for the next year, work a little bit on your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, put at least a team that is ranked. Put it in your schedule, so that at minimum your players can get the experience of playing against some of the top-notch players.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so into our last topic for NCAA football, right? Ole Miss just beat Georgia.
They did.
Now,
I'm happy about that.
I remember even from last year going into this year, Georgia has been the team. It almost seemed like they were the NFL team playing amongst children.
Yeah.
And
They were the new Alabama, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to see them come in this year, and they're still 7-2. It's not like they're horrible. They've only lost 2 games, but to almost see them look human, it's kind of weird. Like there's a dynamic shift going on in college. Alabama's not top tier now. Georgia's not top tier.
Right.
Teams like IU are undefeated. Like what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And Carson Beck for them, 12 interceptions on the year. I mean,
he's doubled what he did last year. Last year he had 6, and he's already at 12. I mean, I wouldn't say already. He's got 2 games left, but it's you definitely see the offense has struggled to do what they used to do.
What are we thinking for Georgia? What's the ceiling here? Are they still going to be that team that we expect to take it all the way in the championship?
Absolutely not. I don't think they're going to be winning the championship. Definitely not this year. Now, I don't know. I can't pinpoint what the problem is. Like, I don't necessarily know if there's an issue. And not to say there's a major issue. It's 7-2, so they're not, like, playing horrible football. But, no, I don't think we're going to see them in a championship this year.
No? And what about Ole Miss, man? What about Ole Miss? Is the hype real behind them with them beating Georgia now? Are they the team that is up there beyond Georgia?
No.
No? Still no. Still no. It was a fluke.
Yeah. I think they're having a great season. They've always, I think, have played well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not kind of the lower tier teams at all. I think they've always had a pretty solid team. But to put them in a championship category, there's too many other teams out there that I think are gonna they'll roll the season. I don't think it's gonna work.
Just for fun, okay? Just for fun here.
Okay.
Who's the team you see coming out on top at the end of the year?
If I had to pick right now, I mean, watching everybody I've watched so far, which is not, I haven't seen everybody. I'll admit that.
Yeah.
But watching Oregon football, it's something else, man. Like, it is something else. They have a high-flying offense and a fantastic...
They are good.
Fantastic defense. And I just don't see anybody beating them. And I'm not a big Oregon fan. I like them because of their uniforms are always cool. That's really the only reason I like them. But they're great. Their state's insane. They have a bunch of insane people there. But
yeah,
I just...
I wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah, I think that they're going to probably be in that championship. At least make it.
Yeah.
At least make it.
I think, I'm probably going to agree with you. They look like the new Georgia, if you were to put it in those terms. But their offense is just so dynamic. I mean, they got weapons everywhere. The only team I would say, right, if I didn't want to pick the same answer that you picked, Miami, even though they just lost to Georgia Tech, which was a bad loss, but Georgia Tech's been an upset team, though, this year. I mean, they were the ones that started that trend of Florida State freaking sucking this season.
Yeah.
which, wow. I mean, who would have thought that would have happened? But Miami, behind Cam Ward, besides this last game against Georgia Tech, has looked solid. I mean, they have a solid defense. Cam Ward's leading the offense. Yep. They got Martinez at running back. I mean, they're a complete team.
They only did one. They did one thing against him, and that is they put pressure on him.
Yeah.
And when you put pressure on him, and not to say that other teams haven't done this, for whatever reason, he did not react well to that pressure. I mean, every time he was struggling, and even when he tried to break it off for a run, you could still see him hesitating. I mean, I watched that entire game, and I'm like, For some reason, that game, he just felt off. And I think Georgia Tech should be a lot better than what their record shows, because they actually have a pretty solid team.
It's like they're only beating the good teams. Yeah. That's almost what it feels like.
They play up or play down to their teams that they play.
But yeah, I mean, just going off your point with the pressure, let's not forget how that game ended. You know, they had an opportunity to have a game-winning drive and sack fumble. So they recover. And so
get rid of the ball, do something.
But besides that game, Miami still, I think 9-1's their record now. That was the only loss that they sustained. I believe so.
Oh, look at that. Keep talking.
So I think that Miami and Oregon are the teams to look out for in the tournament. Who knows? Maybe the Hoosiers can get past Ohio State.
9-1.
Yep. And maybe the Hoosiers can prove like, hey, we're undefeated for a reason. I mean, you can't argue with an undefeated record.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
So we'll see.
Miami's actually third in the ACC right now. SMU is up there, which is nobody cares about SMU. Clemson has not been playing great football, but they're
still up. They've only lost one game?
2. They're 7-2.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Louisville had a great start, but lost to Notre Dame, a couple others. They're 6-3. Yeah, interesting. It'll be very, very interesting to see how the playoffs. The fact that it's the 12 team now, I think, is really fun.
Yeah,
because we'll see how it kind of plays in. And I think people have. Well, there's 4. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's 4 conferences that have an automatic bid for the champion, right? Yeah. Big Ten's one of them.
ACC,
SEC, and
Big 12?
Big 12, probably. That makes sense.
I think so.
I don't remember. You correct us if we're wrong. Why don't you leave a comment instead of just watching?
But all right. So that's our third topic, NCAA football. We're only going to do 3 topics each video. Now, the sport may change with these topics, okay? But the segments we'll try to keep the same. And to end, we're going to have our last segment, which is picking the winners of upcoming games here. Okay, so I'll start it off with college football. Okay,
deal.
South Carolina, number 23 ranked. Okay, versus Missouri, number 24 ranked. Who do you think's winning?
I've seen them both play. Missouri's been pretty good. South Carolina's been pretty good. I think it'll be a great game. But I'm gonna actually pick Missouri to win that one.
Missouri.
Yep.
I don't think I'm going to go with Missouri. I think I'm going to go with South Carolina. You know, the Gamecocks have looked dynamic on offense this year. Yeah. Number 6, Tennessee versus number 11 now, Georgia.
Tennessee's been playing they've had a great year. They're a really good team. I've seen them play a couple times. And I know Georgia is going to try to come back from a big loss. And I think they're going to want to get this one. But I'm going to pick Tennessee.
Picking Tennessee?
Yeah.
I'm going to, I was thinking what your second point was there. I think Georgia is going to be pissed off after that last loss. Probably. So I think they're going to come back and they're going to hit Tennessee hard. I'm going with Georgia.
Okay.
And then last one for college football. Number 17, Clemson, who, mind you, I think you said it was 8-2, right?
Yep.
They're going to play Pittsburgh, who is also 8-2, but Pittsburgh is not ranked. Who we got?
I'm going to go Pittsburgh.
You're going Pittsburgh. Upset, huh?
I've actually seen both teams play. I've seen Clemson play. I've seen Pittsburgh play. And not to say I've studied their teams really well, but I would say I'm going to go for the upset on this one.
Going for the upset. I'm going to root for Pittsburgh, too. You know I can't ever root against a Pittsburgh team. It's just not in my blood. I just can't do it. Pittsburgh for the upset.
Okay. Let's talk about NBA. We got 3 games that are coming up. All of them are in the in-season tournament. So the Emirates NBA Cup is what they're calling it this year. We got Pacers and Heat.
I'm going to go with the Pacers. Pacers are fast. They're dynamic. Heat are kind of a half-court offense. I think they're going to outspeed them.
Yep, I'm with you. I think the Pacers are going to do well. They know what it's like to be in that tournament as they did last year. It's mostly the same team. I think they make another run. So, yeah, we'll go with the Pacers. Second game, Chicago Bulls against the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Cleveland's 12-0 for a reason, man. They're looking solid. I haven't really heard much about the Bulls this year. I know they got a trade with Giddey, but I don't think they're going to have what it takes to topple over and give the Cavs their first loss.
Yep. I'm going to go with the Cavs as well. Lonzo Ball is out again for the Bulls. Oof. I think he needs to retire and just give it up. I mean, I hate to say that, but he's been hurt so many years.
Yes.
I don't even know how many games he's even played in the NBA, but he was a disaster in the Lakers, and it just didn't do well for the Bulls trade. So,
Lonzo, if you watch this, I'm sorry, man.
No, I like you. I just don't think it's the right fit. Go play pickleball or something.
Wow.
Cleveland Cavaliers are my pick. Last one, the Lakers and Spurs, which would be a very interesting game.
I think, on paper, any team with a Victor Wembanyama I want to root for. Mm-hmm. And now they got Chris Paul, too, the old veteran. You think the pick and roll would be unstoppable. But Anthony Davis and LeBron James are obviously top tier. I can't go against the Lakers here. As much as I want to, Lakers are going to beat the Spurs.
Yep. And I feel the same way, as much as I hate to say it, because I despise the Los Angeles Lakers. I just don't see the Spurs pulling it off. They have a decent team, but they're still developing, still young. I think they're still trying to figure themselves out. Popovich is out because he had a stroke. So, I mean, he's always been a phenomenal coach, and we all love him, and we, are going to be praying that he comes out okay. It says a full recovery, so that's really good. But, I mean, how soon could he actually get back on the sideline to coach? I don't know how it's even going to be this year. We'll see.
Think he shouldn't have talked crap about Trump?
That's what he did. Yep. He got spited down. But, yeah, Lakers for the win. NFL. 3 games. So tomorrow night, depending on when you're watching this, Thursday night football on November the 14th, Commanders and Eagles. Who do you got?
I think that's going to be a tough game.
It is.
I think that the Commanders are going to get them. Like we kind of talked about before, Eagles have all these questions around them. There's not too many questions around the Commanders, even with a rookie quarterback. Sure. They think that he could be running for MVP this year. So I'm going to stay with the consistent one over the one that even has the questions. I think that the Commanders are going to retake the lead in the NFC East.
Interesting. So I want to agree with you, but we know how tough it is to win in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So it is in Philadelphia. I just double-checked to make sure. I think it's a great game. I'm going to watch it. I think it's going to be a close game. But I think Philadelphia wins by a field goal.
Oh, by a field goal. Close game?
I think it's
Clutch
close.
Game?
Yep.
All right.
A huge game on Sunday. Huge game. You got Ravens and Steelers.
You don't even have to ask me, man. Steelers are going to play Steelers football. It's going to be a defensive battle. It's going to be field goals being kicked. It's going to be punts left and right. No turnovers because they don't turn over the ball. Just punting the ball. Final score is going to look ugly. It's going to be like 16-19 or some bullcrap score. Steelers are going to pull it off in the last quarter. And their defense is going to be the thing that wins it. Lamar Jackson's going to have opportunity to win, and we're going to shut it down.
I think it's the right pick. I know Lamar Jackson has been playing phenomenal football this year. The Ravens have looked really good. And I don't know. I think when you have home field advantage in NFL football, I think goes a really, really long way. And I'm pretty sure this game is in Pittsburgh. So the Steelers fans are going to be ecstatic. They're going to have the terrible towels going.
We go everywhere.
Well,
every game for a Pittsburgh Steelers is a home game.
Obviously, you travel well in your own city. But just to say, I agree with you. I think it's going to be kind of a choppy game, but I think it's going to be Steelers are going to pull it out. I'm going to give it 21-18. Be my score.
Right.
And then the last game, Monday Night Football. We talked a little bit about the Cowboys. It's Texans and Cowboys.
Battle of Texas.
Yeah.
I think that obviously the Texans are going to come out on top. C.J. Stroud has looked phenomenal in his second year. I mean, that Texans defense looked great in their last game. The Cowboys don't have a quarterback. They don't have team chemistry. The coach sucks. I mean, yeah, great opportunity for the Cowboys to go down 3-7.
Yep. Nope, I agree with you. I think the Texans pull it off. Even though it's in Dallas. I mean, I will tell you, I don't think the Texans have been playing great football recently. They started off really well, and I think they have huge expectations on them because they do have a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
I mean, across the board. I mean, they have a good defense and a good... They're going to win their division, but that's not saying much because you have the Texans, you have the Colts and Titans and Jaguars.
And the Jags are horrible this year.
Yeah, and the Colts are not going to make a run, I don't think, to get up there. So, yeah, I think Texans are gonna pull that one off.
Well, that's our picks. All right, that's 3 games in each sport for you that we covered today. If you like this video, please give us a like. Comment what you thought. Comment anything you disagreed with. Comment what we were wrong about.
Yes.
Just send us
Probably
a comment. You know?
It's probably a lot.
Also, comment any questions you might want us to answer for next video. Go ahead and share this video with your friends. You know, get them in on the conversation, see what they have to think about it.
Yep.
And finally, give us a sub on YouTube. Every sub goes a long way, and we'd really appreciate it. That's all we got for this video. Say peace out.
Peace out.